Hello, and welcome to Kloeker Education Foundation, where we provide quality content for amazing teachers and students. If you're joining us from our previous video on supply and demand, welcome back. If this is your first time, we're glad you're here. This is our Intro to Business series, and this lesson is on price. Let's dive in. We have two objectives within this lesson. To A, explain the importance of price, and B, explain how prices are determined. So starting with objective A, explaining the importance of price. You might be thinking, so what? Why is this important? Imagine you're planning a surprise birthday party. You have a very limited budget and amount of cash, but you want to buy food and decorations for the party. There are no prices on anything at the grocery store you go to. So without prices, it's nearly impossible to make any purchase at all. You don't know if you're getting a fair deal on any goods or services. While this is generally frowned upon, there are businesses in the United States that will not put prices on the aisles or on the menus. Several gas stations will have this practice as an attempt to upcharge for their goods and services. Now, what is price? Economists define price as the amount of money that is paid for a good, a service, or a resource. And the value is placed on a good or service or resource, so consumers will pay more for a highly valued product, and they'll pay little for products that have little to no value. To economists, price is a number. To a marketer and entrepreneur, price is a feeling. So how much will consumers pay? There are three factors that influence the price that consumers are willing to pay for a product. How much money he or she has available, how much satisfaction or value he or she will get from the product, and the relative price of said product. You might be thinking, what is relative price? Relative price is the price compared between two goods and services that are similar, the ratio between prices. For example, when one is house shopping, one house might be $250,000 and the other might be $500,000. The price ratio is 1 to 2. Now, an example of relative price we might be more familiar with is you have $20 and you are choosing to add some new apps or games to your phone, and they cost about $4 each. You want to add some music or ringtones to your phone, and those cost $2 each. Each time you add one application, you will have to give up purchasing 2 songs or ringtones. So what combination would you choose? Would you purchase 10 songs and ringtones? Or would you purchase 5 apps for your phone? Or would you do a split, managing your money effectively? Now, consumers use relative price. Whether prices go up or down, relative prices don't change if the ratio remains the same. By comparing relative prices, consumers choose the combination that brings them the most satisfaction. Again, prices will go up or down, but if the ratio stays the same, it's about what the customer wants and the values they have attached. Now, others use relative price. Businesses compare the relative price of different resources to determine which combination to use in production. Resource owners compare relative price in different markets to determine where to sell their resources. You may have been driving and seen 2 gas stations across the street from each other, and one is going to drop their price by a few pennies in order to try and attract more customers than the other. For businesses and companies, 3 basic economic questions will help them determine their price. What will be produced? How will the products be produced? And how will the products be allocated throughout the company? Using relative price, we can answer these economic questions. What will be produced? The products that are the most profitable, and they're going to be sold at the highest prices the market will bear. How will products be produced? At the lowest possible cost. And how will they be allocated? They'll be allocated to whom is willing to pay and able to pay the price for those goods and services. Relative price has several functions. It provides information to the consumer, information needed for their economic decision making, that being of whether to buy a product or not, what to buy, and how much to buy if they choose to do. These economic decisions are difficult without having the price. Relative price also has a function of providing incentives. Profits are the incentives that encourage producers to change and reallocate their resources to make the most amount of money. Producers compare relative prices in order to determine what to produce. And lastly, relative price has the function of rationing. Whoever is willing and able to pay the price gets the products that are produced. Relative prices allocate limited resources, goods, and services among the consumers. Generally, higher price, the lower the quantity purchased. The lower the price, the higher the quantity purchased. And now for our second objective, explaining how prices are determined. Now, supply and demand play a huge role in price. Supply, the quantities of an item that are offered for sale at a specific price during a specific period of time. As the price increases, supply increases. As price decreases, prices go down. Demand, the quantity that consumers are willing and able to buy during a very range of prices or during a period of time. Supply interacts with demand to determine those prices. As price decreases, generally demand decreases. As price increases, generally demand goes down. For example, the supply and demand schedule for Blu-ray DVD disc players. At $400, the demand is very low and the supply is quite high. At $100, the demand is high and supply is low. However, at $200, we have equilibrium, where quantity demand of 600 meets the supply 600. Equilibrium price is known as market clearing price, the price at which the quantity that the buyer wants to buy is equal to the quantity that the seller is willing to sell, equal to both the demand price and the supply price. It is determined through trial and error with businesses, and seldom the price that actually exists in the marketplace. It's constantly changing as demand is constantly changing for goods. Ideally, in a perfect world, companies would want to produce 100 of one resource, in this case 100 espressos, and sell out exactly 100 espressos. That would be equilibrium price. So what happens when there is an excess supply of a product? The quantity supplied is greater than the demand, aka a surplus of the product exists. The price is set higher than the equilibrium price of that product. When this happens, producers generally lower their prices to sell the excess supply, and a buyer's market develops. Consumers buy more and eliminate the excess as price goes down, but the producers produce less. Now, what happens when there's an excess demand for a product? The demand is greater than the supply, there's then a shortage of the products that exist. The product's price is lower than its equilibrium price, and a seller's market develops. This seller's market means the consumers are willing to pay more to get what they want, so the price increases. Producers respond to higher prices by increasing the supply. The excess demand is then eliminated when the product price reaches its equilibrium price. Now, there is a substitution effect. Cross demand, getting jam instead of jelly, getting Starbucks instead of Dutch Bros or Black Rifle. Rationing changes the relative price, causing buyers to substitute their purchase from one product for another. Whenever the demand of a price of a product changes, the relative price of other products change as well. When the relative prices of other products change, consumers change the combinations of the products that they end up buying. And there's also rationing with market prices. Market price is the actual price that prevails in a market at any particular time, the price that you actually pay for a good or service. Many times the excess supply and excess demand causes market price to fluctuate, or the excess supply is just kept and will eventually be sold off at a slower rate. Now, let's take some of these principles we just talked about and apply it to scenarios we might be familiar with. Think of 5 products that you've purchased in the last week. How much did you pay for each of them? If you can remember, you can write it down or just keep a mental list. If the price of any of these products went down, would you have bought more of those products? What would be the maximum price you would pay for each of those products? If a product's price went above your maximum price, what would you buy instead? If you said the most I would pay for a loaf of bread was $5 and it was $10, what would you have bought instead? Now let's take these values and principles and apply them to situations so that we can continue to build strong ethics and character in business through the gray zone. A state has placed a price ceiling on property insurance premiums. Property insurance is, of course, the insurance that a company will pay out to fix your house if it is damaged. Many big-name insurers reduced or eliminated the coverage they offered to the state's citizens. Many people turn to the state for insurance coverage. Due to the financial struggles, the state will not be able to cope with a major disaster adequately. Now, you might be thinking, this is just a hypothetical. However, this did happen in the state of California here recently. So, was it right for the state to establish a price ceiling for the insurance companies? Was it ethical for insurers to cancel their customers' policies even when they were paying? Has the price ceiling helped or hurt the state's citizens? Why is that? Why do you think that is? Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our lesson. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Kloeker Education Foundation website. Our next unit on economic utility is just a click away. I'll see you there.